Hi again, everybody. Welcome into No Holding Back. This is our first episode of our No Holding Back podcast, Hockey Edition. Luke, my son, Ben Holden here with you. It's great to be with you, and kind of a dead giveaway right here. We've got somebody from the Rangers coming on, the New York Rangers coming on here in a few moments to join us here via our Zoom line, and we're going to talk a little hockey, a little NHL hockey with our special guest. But first, anything you want to touch on before we get to our guest happening in the world in general or in the world of sports?
Well, I mean, I think anyone who's a big basketball fan knows that The Last Dance premiered yesterday on ESPN at 9 o'clock Eastern, episodes 1 and 2. That'll be every Sunday, I believe, until they get to episodes 9 and 10.
Yes.
Finally finishes.
Yep.
That's probably the biggest thing that I took away from the past few days. Obviously, being, an 18, almost 19-year-old, I didn't get to experience any of Michael Jordan's playing career. I mean, I guess you could say I was alive during his time in Washington, but that was nowhere near what it was like when he was with Chicago. But I think that was probably the biggest thing that has happened recently in sports. And I think everybody's kind of on the edge of their seats now, waiting for episodes 3 and 4 because 1 and 2 were so good. So,
I could have watched all 10 of them last night.
Yeah,
I mean, I would have pulled a binge and watched that thing till 5 in the morning.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
that good.
Yes, it was.
And I'm glad. I texted Luke about what, and I think I texted you early on in the second hour, didn't I?
Yeah, the second. Yeah, because I started watching at 9.
And I'm really glad you did.
Yeah.
And I should have texted you earlier.
Yeah.
But when I said, man, I got to text Luke, I really hope you're watching this so you could see Michael Jordan play and get an idea of what he was all about. I mean, guy got cut from his basketball team in 10th grade.
Yeah. And then,
I mean, it's remarkable. And we're going to get into that a little bit more with our guest from the New York Rangers when we get to him momentarily.
Yep.
Anything else going on in your world specific, or was it really just about the Last Dance last night?
I think really the only thing I think that was a huge thing was probably the Last Dance.
Okay.
So I haven't seen too much else. I know the PLL had their cheese ball toss competition. I didn't get to watch any of that, but I heard it was pretty entertaining.
Cheese boy.
Yes, I think Trevor Baptiste did one.
Yes.
Yeah,
he won. Played at Denver, now plays in the PLL for Atlas.
For the Atlas, with Paul Rabel and Rob Pennell, soon to be once they get the season figured out if they get to play this year. But which we hope they do, because Rob Pennell didn't get to play in the inaugural year of the PLL. So to see a talent like him back with Paul Rabel, I think is going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think the Last Dance was probably the biggest thing that anybody. I mean, I feel like everybody was watching it.
Yeah.
So
well, I know that our guest was more than likely watching it.
Yes.
He is a big-time basketball fan. That's one thing maybe that Ranger fans or hockey fans don't know about the head coach of your New York Rangers. That is one David Quinn. And David Quinn and I first met back in 2009. I was the radio and TV broadcaster in Cleveland for the Lake Erie Monsters for 2 years with David Quinn, and David Oliver, now Ranger assistant, was our general manager. We obviously built friendships and long-lasting friendships. And my son was about, 8 years old when you first met Quinny?
8, yep.
He wouldn't listen to me about hockey, but he listened to Quinny, and that was the right move.
Yeah.
So we're excited to talk with Coach and catch up with him and see what he's doing. So without further ado, let's bring in the head coach of the New York Rangers, David Quinn. All right, joined now by the head coach of the New York Rangers here on No Holding Back, our hockey edition, David Quinn. Coach, good to see you again. How are you?
Benny, great to see you and Luke. It's been too long, and I'm holding up just like everybody else, trying to do my part and beating this terrible disease, and just trying to stay optimistic and know that we're going to beat this sooner than later.
Yeah, right there with you. It's it. Obviously, we're in your neck of the woods, incredibly harder than any place in the country. And here in Detroit, we got a lot of cases here too. So just trying to stay safe and do the best we can too. So you haven't seen Luke since we were in Cleveland, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest changes you see in this kid?
Well, he was better looking than you then, and he's a lot better looking than you now. So, I mean, not much has changed.
He's got his mom's looks.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's amazing watching people grow, and I've been following him a little bit through you, and I'm sure you're real proud of him, as you should be. And if he's got great parenting, you can tell that right off the bat. And I'm excited to do this with you guys. We had a lot of fun. We were together in Lake Erie and Cleveland, and Luke would pop in every now and then, and those were a lot of fun times, and it was a pivotal point in both of our careers.
It really was. You're right about that, and we'll get into that as we move along. But Luke, I mean, so you know this from being a hockey coach, from having parents that helped you in sports. He'd never listen to me, man, but he'd listen to you when he'd get in the car with us to go to games or whatever it was. I used to love listening to you talk to him.
Yeah.
Well, there's one person that would listen to me. Then I wish our players would listen to me. But at least I found someone who would listen to me.
What do you remember about that, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, obviously the American Hockey League is, all the farm teams to the NHL. So obviously it's as professional as it gets to that point. And, just kind of having someone like yourself almost as a mentor. I was still playing hockey at the time, and, all the things you tell me, don't stop your feet, keep your stick on the ice and all that kind of stuff, really, I think it definitely helped me when I was still playing hockey. And I think just as an athlete, even past that into high school, it was something that, I kind of carried with me. I felt like once I started playing lacrosse, I got more athletic, and I just kind of remember, don't stop your feet, always keep moving, keep active, all that kind of stuff. So
it's funny, people ask me a lot, I've been very fortunate to coach a lot of different levels, and they ask me, what's the biggest difference between coaching in the NHL, the American League, college, coaching in Ann Arbor. And you're really coaching the same things, regardless of what age level you're at. And people, I think, have a hard time believing that, but they make mistakes less often at this level. And at the end of the day, coaching is much more about managing people. And at the end of the day, you're trying to drill these certain aspects of the game into people and make them habits. One of the things I've always talked about with coaching is, it's not a learned skill until someone's doing something because they know it's the right thing to do, not because the coach is telling them to do it. So, it was so fun having you around because, pro hockey's intense. And, when you get together with your dad and you at such a young age, it's a little bit of a lighter moment. You can have some laughs, and, I know I could tease you a little bit, but also, help you a little bit along the way. So, that was a great balancing act that you had in the American Hockey League, having those experiences from my end of it as well.
Yeah, and speaking of the American Hockey League, which we're going to talk a little bit about how you and I first met, are you still going to Dunkin' Donuts getting the famous cinnamon raisin bagel you used to get?
No, I've listen, the older I get, I got to lean up a little bit. So I've gone to the healthier version of a breakfast sandwich, the power breakfast sandwich, but I still go to Dunkin' Donuts.
All right. Well, this won't shock you that I'm still going here.
There's not anything healthy in that bag. I'll tell you that. There's not.
Hold that thought.
Wait a minute. I've
changed my diet a lot, as you know.
Okay.
In your honor, because I wasn't sure, a cinnamon raisin bagel.
Wow, I'm very impressed.
I'm like a hockey player. I remember a lot of things, Coach.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this about your dad, Luke, but when he was in his 30s, he was eating like a 12-year-old, chicken fingers.
He knows.
Good Lord. Happy Meals at McDonald's and Burger King. I mean, holy moly.
I remember there was one time you were getting on me about that. I forget where I was, up in either Toronto or Hamilton. We had a long ride back, and the food was always piled in my seats. I had the 2 seats behind Coach, and just stacks of food, man. I couldn't even get into my seat, right? And one time he turns around, he goes, "Benny, what are you eating back there?" And I said, "I got a meat lover's pizza. I think I had a calzone." And you kept getting on me, and I said, "I've had enough." I go, "I don't play for you, man. I know you had my best interest then."
Trying to look out for you, Benny. Trying to look out.
I appreciate that, man. Let's talk a little bit about your hockey team. And you guys, 11 wins in February. That was a franchise record, was it not?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a pretty special.
What was the key to that run you guys got on to get your team into position before everything happened to hopefully get into the playoffs?
Well, there was so many new faces when the season started, and there was a lot of uncertainty of how good we were going to be. And there was also a lot of uncertainty with the young players who were going to make jumps, what type of transition guys were going to make from their first year to their second year. Even some of the free agents and the new players you bring in, you never know how people are going to react. So, there was a lot of question marks regarding our team. But we always saw we had enough talent, and I've said this a ton throughout my coaching career. It's not about having the most talent. You have to have enough talent. And then you have to acquire all these other characteristics in order to have success, whether it be, being a great teammate, conditioning, leadership, resiliency, all these things that factor into having success. And, early on, we were kind of hovering around 500, just finding our way, winning a few, losing a few. Never lost more than 3 in a row. Never won more than 3 in a row. But you could really see us kind of coming together as Christmas was coming and the new year was kicking in. And, we just never lost faith, and we never lost faith in each other. And I think what really happened was it was starting to become more of a belief within the locker room, not only from a team standpoint, but guys really think, oh, that guy's pretty good. He's better than I thought he was. And it was really fun to watch. And, we came back from our break and we knew we were in a pivotal point of the season. We were about 11 points out of a playoff spot, but it was this hidden optimism, not only within the coaching staff and the management, but within the locker room. And we just took off from there.
And, through that kind of process, I think one of the hardest things being a coach is trying to manage a roster, especially at the pro level. Through February, getting those 11 wins, how did you really kind of work with your assistants and everybody else on the team to build the perfect roster for that specific month of the year?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky. The staff we have is outstanding. I mean, Lindy Rupp's, one of the all-time winningest coaches in the history of the National Hockey League. So for me to be a first-year head coach in the NHL, to have him on our staff was so beneficial to me in so many ways, and still is. He's become a great friend. David Oliver, as you guys know well. David has been one of my closest friends since we worked together in Lake Erie. And people probably don't know this. I had never met David Oliver until I got the job in Lake Erie. So it's not like we've had this long history of growing up and playing against each other or with each other, this long friendship. Our friendship formed when I came to work for the Avalanche in Cleveland. And, Greg Brown I've known forever. And, these guys care about their players. They're passionate about their profession. And our players see that. And, managing a roster is never easy, especially at this level. But when you have the leadership we have and when your best players are like Artemi Panarin, what you see on the ice is special, but he's equally special off the ice. Same thing with Mika Zibanejad. When your best players are great people, it's a lot easier to manage a roster. And, Mark Stahl had a great 3 months, before we had to stop. I mean, he got hurt early in the year and, really gave us some calming presence on that blue line, gave us a calming presence in the locker room. Chris Kreider has had a great year. Ryan Strome's really taken the next step. Tony DeAngelo's had a great year. Adam Fox has stepped in and really, made this transition look a lot easier than it is. Ryan Lindgren has really had a great year. Pavel Buchnevich. I mean, I'm not going down the list. I mean, it all came together for us, and I'm leaving some guys out. But, really, truly was a team effort from the top to the bottom.
Getting Panarin obviously is the first step for the organization, and you bring in a big-time free agent. Tell us a little bit about what he's like. How is it for you as the coach to interact with him and deal with him and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, what people don't realize is how much he loves hockey. His passion for the game is really spectacular, and he brings an enthusiasm to the rink every day. I mean, the smile you see on the ice translates off the ice. I mean, that's his personality. He works his ass off. He puts an awful lot into his craft. He's very, very coachable. I mean, we're very fortunate here that a guy like that who's had the success he's had in this league is coachable. But, that being said, we're not, this isn't a dictatorship. It certainly is my decision at the end of the day, but we certainly want to take everybody's opinion into it, and we lean on our veterans and our older players at critical times. And these guys give good feedback. And when we don't agree with them and we decide to do something different, they're very receptive to it. So, we're very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, David Quinn, our guest here on the first edition of the hockey edition of No Holden Back. Luke came up with the name, by the way, Coach.
The hell of a name. It wasn't. You didn't have to ask who came up with that name. I know you did.
So you guys, the last game you played was in early March. Can you take us through that and how it all transpired when everything was shut down for the NHL?
Yeah, we were in Colorado. We just had a big win in Dallas. Went into Dallas and beat them 4-2. And it was really a pivotal road trip for us, obviously, when the games are getting few and far between. And in a playoff hunt, you're 2 points out of a playoff. I mean, every game matters, every point, every shift. And, starting our road trip off in Dallas, winning 4-2 was a huge win. And we played really well. I mean, we really did play really well that game. And we're feeling really good about ourselves. And, going into Colorado, it was back-to-back, actually. And we got in late, getting about 3 o'clock in the morning and, no pregame game. We get to the rink and, we're getting ready to play. And all of a sudden you hear that the NBA has put a pause to their season. Our guys are getting ready to go up for warm-ups. And it was just an eerie feeling because I think everybody deep down knew that you know, we were going to have to mirror what the NBA was going to do. And,
Yeah.
you know, we got out 1-0, gave up a couple of goals, down 2-1. We're playing well, and ended up tying the game with 13 seconds to go. And, you know, we ended up losing in overtime. But you watch that, you know, if you watch the way we celebrated on the ice after we scored that goal, I didn't really see it because our bench went crazy, obviously, because every point matters. I mean, that point was pivotal, and hopefully you get another one going in overtime. But, you know, to get a point, securing a point with 13 seconds to go, and, you know, so after the game, I remember Jeff Gordon and Chris Drury saying, "Did you see the celebration on that?" I said, "No, I didn't." So obviously one of the things I did when we went back to the hotel, I went back and watched the celebration, and I think it really exemplifies what we were like as a team and where we were at psychologically and what type of team we had become. We were supposed to fly to Arizona after the game, but the NHL kept us in Colorado. Weren't sure what we were going to do. We knew at the end of the day we were probably going to fly back to New York and the league was going to be on pause. So, but you know, I vividly remember when we were about to head out to warm-ups, the feeling, because you kind of knew it was a very eerie feeling because of what had happened in the NBA, and we knew that we were next.
Yeah.
And you guys had such a hot streak, you know, going through February, starting into March. You know, how did you and the team feel when you heard the news that the NHL was going to be suspended?
Yeah, we were obviously disappointed, as were a lot of teams. We, you know, nothing like being in that playoff hunt. You know, our team was optimistic. We felt good about our chances. Our schedule was going to be a daunting one the last 12, 13 games, but we had done well against good teams, playoff teams, and there was just a good feeling. You know, there's that it feeling and that it factor you have as your season's evolving, and our guys kind of felt it. And, you know, we just got to that point where we knew if we did A, B, and C, we were going to put ourselves in a great position to win hockey games. Now, that being said, we had lost Chris Kreider first game in March.
Yeah.
We were in Philly back-to-back. We had beat Montreal, flew into Philly that night, played Philly. First period up 1-0. He blocks a shot and breaks his foot. And that took a little bit of the wind out of our sails. Being the youngest team in the league, our depth isn't, you know, we're not built to lose a guy of that magnitude. But that being said, I thought we were playing some good hockey after we lost Chris, even though our record may not have shown that. But he was ready to come back. In fact, he wasn't going to play against Arizona, but he was probably going to play the next game after that. So, you know, we just felt really good about where we were at. But listen, as much as it was about hockey, there was a lot more to that decision to stop playing, and rightfully so. There's a lot at stake here right now, and we've all just have to be smart and do our part in getting over this.
Yeah, it's unprecedented is the word that, you know, everybody uses, and I think that's the word that fits the best. So nobody knows, Coach, but where are you at with right now? And, you know, we've seen Manchester as a possibility, North Dakota as a possibility. What can you share with us on that front?
Yeah, you hear all these rumors, and I don't care who you are right now in this day and age, everybody is guessing what's going to happen.
Right.
Nobody knows. And I certainly don't know. I have my opinions. I have my, you know, I'm an optimistic person. So I think we're going to play eventually at some point in time this summer. No idea where, no idea when, but I do hold hope that we're going to continue to all do our part and unify in beating this thing and putting us in a position to get back to some sort of normalcy. But we're all guessing. And, you know, it really would be irresponsible for me to tell you what I think is going to happen or what could happen, because nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Right. You're a defenseman by trade, and you and I chatted a couple of days ago, and I told you all the guys I work with on the NCHC package. We were Ranger. I mean, obviously, I root for you guys because you're there, Ollie's there. We spent time together in the American League, but they're all New York guys. They're all Ranger guys. I said, this team's going. It was like Jim Fossil. I said, this team's going to the playoffs. You probably didn't want to hear that, but nevertheless, the defense core you had, I mean, that Tony DeAngelo, what is the book on him, man? He is like street tough, man. I love watching him play.
Yeah, Tony's really had a great year, and you know, everybody acknowledges his offensive flair and, you know, the way he moves a puck, and he's a highly intelligent hockey player. And, you know, one of the things I thought he did this year, and it's the natural growth of an offensive defenseman, is I thought he got better defensively. And you know, you could see, you know, you see the fruits of his labor and him putting in the effort he has, and just being a more well-rounded defenseman. And, you know, he's one of the top scoring defensemen in this league, and I'm not surprised. Eventually, he's going to be the leading scoring defenseman in this league. He's a lot of fun to be around, and we wouldn't be in the position we are in without him. That's for sure.
And we talk about in so many sports now, players being positionless and things like that. How do you really handle having two-way players, and how does that really add depth to your team?
Well, I think this day and age, positionless players, I think our sport's going towards that for sure. A lot of people joke that some of our defensemen just line up on the blue line, and then when the puck's dropped, it's just hockey. And I got no problem with that in a lot of ways. When we have the puck, you got to have 5 guys involved offensively if you're going to score goals. You just can't stand on that blue line. You can't be stationary. You got to be moving. You got to be interchangeable. And that's something we certainly encourage, as does every team in this league. I mean, nobody's, everybody wants to play fast. Everybody wants to D during the rush. I mean, we're not asking our guys to do anything that other people aren't. And we're certainly not ignorant to that. But we have guys that are gifted. When you got Tony and you've got Foxy and, Trouba's gifted too. Trouba moves the puck well. And, Lindgren's done a real good job moving the puck and getting involved. So, we want all our defensemen involved. Some are more involved than others just because of their talent level and their skill set. And, to me, if you're going to be productive offensively, your defensemen have to be involved. And like I said, I think that's certainly the way our game is going.
Offensively, had you had a player at any level of all the levels you've coached at score 5 in a game like Zibanejad did earlier this year?
No, that was a special night, and so for so many reasons. The point of the season we were at, playing Washington at home, the crowd, the magnitude of the goals, when he scored them, how he scored them. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to be part of. The electricity in the building was off the charts. People, talking to even Mark Stahl and guys that have been here a long time, they hadn't heard that building that loud since they had beaten Washington. I think it was 2015 in the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7 in overtime. So, that was a pretty special night, and really, I think it gave our guys a little sneak preview of what the Garden would be like making the playoffs.
And obviously, atmosphere is a very big thing. Kind of going back a little bit to some of the possibilities. How do you feel about not having fans in the stands, and how does that affect your team and just the energy that comes from the fans?
Yeah, I just started thinking about that. It will be odd if that's the case, and I think it's going to be odd for everybody, not just for us or our players. It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be something that is going to take getting used to if that is going to be the case. Certainly at our level, most buildings are sold out. There's an electricity, especially as the season evolves. And we're going to go from one extreme to another where, we're playing in, action-packed games that are, playoff positioning and jockeying is on the line, and to all of a sudden, boom, nobody's in the stands. So now who knows if we do return, whether it'll be regular season or playoff games. It may be a little bit different if you go right into the playoffs with no fans. I think obviously once you're in a playoff setting, the fan base is, the electricity in the building's real. Everybody talks about how special going to an NHL playoff game, and it's a sporting event unlike any other. It will be different for sure, but that being said, you're in the playoffs. So, it will be, there will be that, balancing act and that dynamic if we do go in that direction, how people are going to react to it.
All right, so I made a little, me, I always like to try to do my homework, right? Wink.
Yep.
So I made a few notes last night, and since you and I first met in 2009. The last time you and I saw each other was when you were at BU. I showed up at Matthews, and I think Starman was there too, scouting.
Yeah.
I remember calling, was it your first or second year you guys played at Yost at BU?
That might have been my third year.
Third year.
Yeah.
I remember doing that game. You guys gave up like 50 shots. Your goalie was unbelievable.
No, that was my first year. I'm sorry. That was my first year.
First road game too, right?
Yes.
That takes stones to go into Yost back in those days and open a season on the road, but you learn a lot about your team, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't make that schedule. Let's make that clear. Never done that. Thanks, Jack Parker. Okay. The schedules are done way in advance. Okay. Thanks, Jack.
A couple other things I wrote down, and you shared with me a lot in the time we got to know each other. But for those that don't know, how important a man by the name of Ben Smith is to you and the influence that he had on you, I'd love for you to share and talk about that a little bit, about your relationship and what you took and what you still use today from things you learned from Ben.
Yeah, well, really, if it wasn't for Ben, I wouldn't be in coaching. And, you know, our relationship goes back to 1983, when from hockey night in Boston when I was a junior, and then my senior year at Kent. Ben was the point man and recruited me to go to BU. A big influence in my life while I was at BU. When I had to quit playing after my junior year, after being diagnosed with hemophiliac, you know, it was a difficult time for me. And the people that really helped me through difficult time, not only were my parents, but were my coaches. And, you know, Ben Smith and Jack Parker and Larry Piatelli and Peter Bragdon, people like that. And when I was trying to find my way to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I just kept thinking to myself, if I could ever have the impact that these types of people have had on me, how cool would it be to get into coaching and do that for somebody? And, you know, Ben gave me my first coaching job at Northeastern, 1993. And, you know, to be able to get that opportunity right out of the gate, my coaching career, I mean, I was the #1 assistant at Northeastern, right, my first coaching job at the age of 26. You know, I was incredibly fortunate, just learned so much from him, not only about hockey, but how to handle people, how to deal with people, and really has been an incredible mentor, but more importantly is one of my closest friends.
That's awesome. And for whatever it's worth, believe me or not, I learned a lot from you in the time we were together, in that sense, what you were talking about, how to deal with people, how to communicate with people. And a lot of the times, and for you guys as coaches, and I used to watch Ollie do it when he was a GM, I used to say to him, like, I would not want your job. You'd have to call players, you know, I got to send you down or whatever. I mean, that was I learned an awful lot professionally and personally in those 2 years that we were together.
You know, I appreciate that, Benny, and it really is. I don't care what you're doing in life. I mean, there's a balancing act in you know, giving people honest answers, doing it in a way where they can handle good news, bad news, whatever the situation may call for. And you know, it's funny. Ever since I became the head coach of the New York Rangers, everybody thinks I know something about leadership. So people call me and want me to talk about leadership. And it's, you know, and I was thinking about this even when I was at BU. You know, you're always trying to evolve and you're always trying to figure out, you know, what's important in being a leader. And one of the things that kind of struck me during my time at BU, especially when we were getting those high-end players, you know, my 5 years at BU, we were so fortunate in the type of player we were getting, you know, the Jack Eichels, the Clayton Kellers, the, you know, Charlie McAvoys, the Matt Grizzlicks, the Dante Fabros, I mean, you know, Jake Ottingers. I mean, we were really, you know, very fortunate to get these types of players. And it was really, you know, managing them as much as it was teaching them what to do on the ice, was also managing them off the ice. And, you know, it's a balancing act. And to me, the #1 aspect of being a good coach, a good leader, or anything is balancing accountability with likability. You know, how likable can you be when you're holding people accountable? And that doesn't mean you sacrifice being likable from an accountability standpoint. And, you know, to me, it's more important at this level, but regardless of what you're doing, I mean, it's a very, very important piece of being a successful leader. And that is that, you know, holding people accountable, and how likable can you be while you're holding people accountable?
It's good stuff. Good stuff. What other memories do you have from the time we were in Cleveland together? What are some highlights for you, man?
Well, it was really the turning point in my coaching career to be able to coach in the American Hockey League. It was the most fun I ever had coaching. You know, it's such a great league. You know, it really, truly is a development league. It's a lot of fun helping guys get to where they want to go. You know, the people you meet, there's a real passion and love for the game of hockey at the American Hockey League level, because there's not a lot of fanfare. And I actually love the bus trips. I love spending time with you, you know, with our team, and you include you in that. I mean, that's just a lot of fun, and it really gives you an opportunity to grow regardless of what position you're in. You grew a lot in that position. I grew a lot in that position. Ollie grew a lot in that position. And it just really, as serious as it is and as professional as it is, there's a level of fun to it, because, you know, everybody is growing and everybody's this close to being where they want to be. And it really is the most rewarding level of hockey.
I used to say to Luke all the time, I tell him, when we get on that bus or we get on a plane, when we were doing it, we all were one step away.
Yeah.
Whether it was you, whether it was Ollie, whether it was me, whether it was Dusty, our equipment guy, Dusty's still there, isn't he?
Dusty's still there. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Whether it was Woody or Berkey or our trainers, whoever it was, that was the one common bond we all shared. And I'm not going to lie to you, Coach. I miss that. I really do. I miss that camaraderie of being a part of that kind of team, man. It's something special about it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the ownership we had in Cleveland was unbelievable. The fan base was unbelievable. It really was. There was just so many great things about it. And I just have so many fond memories and really a pivotal point in my coaching career.
Cool to hear you say that. I didn't know what you told us initially about how it was, probably the most important step in your career.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it.
Right on.
And how important do you think having a good developmental league in any sport really, how valuable is that, in the position that you're in now, being a head coach of an NHL team? How important is it for you guys to have a good American Hockey League team?
Well, the one thing you learn fast is there's no developing in the National Hockey League. It's about winning.
You better be ready.
That being said, I believe you can develop in this league. I think you have to have that approach. The league has gotten a lot younger. I think players are put in positions they may not really be ready for at this level just because of the salary cap and the league going younger. So there absolutely has to be more of a development approach at the National Hockey League level than there ever has been. That being said, the value of having good people in the American Hockey League and people that understand and there's a connection and a continuity between what's going on in the NHL and what's going on in the American Hockey League is very, very important for the success of your franchise. And we certainly have that. We're very fortunate to have Chris Knobloch down in Hartford, does a heck of a job with the Wolfpack. Chris Drury is, a star guy in management. So we're very fortunate from that end of it. So our organization's in great hands when it comes to development, and it really is the lifeline into your organization and your future success. So that certainly isn't lost on us.
I may have told Luke this, but obviously he knows this. Chris Drury's a BU guy.
Okay.
And Chris Drury played for the Avalanche. I thought one of the biggest mistakes ever made by any team was trading him away. The guy, he killed every team he played against. I mean, game winners, clutch, overtime goals, man. Where are you at with that? Are you with me on that?
100%. I mean, he's like that in every aspect of his life. He's a special guy. He really is. And, he's been a great friend to me, and, I lean on him a lot. And that's the other thing. I mean, I'm just so fortunate. Jeff Gorton, who's I've known for 30 years, our general manager, has done a phenomenal job with this organization. I mean, just to look at the work he's done here, and what people probably don't really realize, he had his fingerprints all over the Bruins Stanley Cup winning team in 2011.
Yeah.
Him and Mike O'Connell were instrumental in putting that team together. And obviously Peter Chiarelli came in and did his part as well. But I mean, Jeff is one of the top executives in all of hockey, and for me to be able to work with people like Jeff and Chris, and now John Davidson's here, who I've only known a year, but have an awful lot of respect for and admiration. We're just very fortunate here, and I couldn't be any luckier.
I want to ask you about the Last Dance. Another thing many people may not know about this guy we're talking to here is he is a big basketball fan. Did you watch both episodes last night?
I sure did, and it just you forget how great Michael Jordan was. I mean, wow. And obviously growing up a Celtics fan, that playoff series in '86 when he scored over 100, 49 in game one and 63 in game two in the Garden against that lineup. As Larry Bird said, that wasn't Michael Jordan. That was God disguised as Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It really was a lot of fun watching that and what goes into championship caliber sports. And then you forget how great Scottie Pippen was. And that's the other thing. And, it really is fun to sit there and watch how that thing evolved. And, it was fun watching those guys from their college days and the adversity they had to overcome. Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school team as a sophomore. Scottie Pippen being the manager and then all of a sudden finding his way on the team and spurting up 6 inches. I mean, I can't wait to watch the next few series.
Well, the next ones, I believe, are with the bad boys. Yes. So, you know me, I'm always repping the mitten. So they tried to beat the hell out of him. That's what I remember back in those days. I mean, they physically gave him everything he could handle, and it drove him to put on weight. It drove him to all put on weight in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw that little snippet that they gave in the preview of all of a sudden the weight room became more important to him and Pippen after they had to deal with the bad boys in the late '80s. So, and ironically, Rodman ends up back on Chicago after being the centerpiece of that bad boys team. So, I mean, it's real. I don't care what sport you're coaching. You love to watch greatness, and this series is all about watching greatness.
100%.
And I have to ask, of course, everyone always asks this question. Who in your mind between LeBron James and Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time?
Michael Jordan. No
I
hesitation.
that. All right, so I'll take it a step further. And I know you're a Boston guy, and I got a Boston guy on my top 5. Give me your top 5 from 5 to 1 of all time in the NBA.
Oh boy.
I'm putting you on the spot again, Coach.
5 to 1. I can go 1 to 5. How's that? I'm not that smart to go 5 to 1. I got to go Jordan 1.
Yep.
Boy, Bill Russell's up there too. Bill Russell's, I mean, just winning after winning after winning after winning. You got to say him. You got to say Bill Russell. You got to say Wilt. You got to say Magic and Larry.
Okay, I have Jordan, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, Kareem, and because I'm biased again, Michigan State, Magic Johnson, because he revolutionized the position.
Yep.
Some people may think we're nuts because we don't have LeBron in the top 5, but I don't think he's a top 5 player when you stack him up against those players.
I agree. Yeah, we're on the same page there. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me being younger than both of you, it's a little different hearing, your top 5 list maybe compared to mine.
Right.
Yours.
Well, I mean, I would definitely put Jordan at number 1, for sure.
Saw 2 hours on when you put him at 1.
I would probably have to put LeBron at second for me, just because watching the things that he's done throughout his career in my lifetime, it's been really impressive. I would probably have to put Kobe Bryant at third. He's the closest thing I think anyone's ever seen to Michael Jordan, and he got the opportunity to play against him as well for a few years.
Right.
So I have to put Kobe at third. And 4, that would be – this is probably going to be a little biased, but I'm probably going to throw Steph Curry in there. Greatest.
You can shoot from your kitchen. I can understand that.
You shoot across the bay, man.
Yeah. Greatest 3-point shooter of all time. I think that's without question. He's the only unanimous MVP ever, and that's a big deal. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, the 3 championships he won, all of them were kind of too easy, or
Right.
I remember the series in 2015. Everyone was saying, they took him to 6 games, and it was only LeBron against an entire team. And I think the Warriors don't get enough credit for what they've done with their system. But I would definitely have to put Steph at 4. And I think right now, up and coming at least, I would have to put Giannis at 5. I think he's going to be probably one of the best players we've seen in a long time.
He's a freak. It's going to be interesting to see where he stands when this is all said and done. He might creep into everybody's top 5. That guy is incredible.
Yeah. No.
So I probably should have asked you this earlier, but what are you doing to fill the days, man?
I'm doing stuff like this, Ben.
dealing with knuckleheads from the past.
Yeah, exactly. Answering a lot of questions. No, we've actually, as a staff, we've done some projects. Obviously, you want to use your time wisely and give yourself an opportunity, if you do get going again, to put yourself in a position to hit the ground running. That being said, there's only so much video you can watch. There's only so much you can do. But we're certainly trying to do our part. As I said, we actually have a Zoom staff meeting today at 3:00. So talk through some things, and really trying not to get too fat and go too insane. So I'm just trying to do my part and staying out of everybody's way.
See, that's why I brought the cinnamon raisin bagel, not the 40-pack of Timbits I used to leave on your seat.
Oh, you loved your Timbits.
We all did.
Yeah.
I did. I hated when you bought them. I'd eat half of them.
I remember many a time stopping at Peace Bridge on the way back into the States, and I'd leave them on your seat. And you're like, I'm going to kill you, Betty. And then halfway down the road, or a mile down the road, half of them were gone.
That's right. I didn't say I had discipline when it comes to donuts. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you doing this, Coach. It means a lot. Friendship means a lot. And thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this with Luke and I. And I know Luke was thrilled to see you, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, it was either this or laundry, and you guys won out by a sock. So
Nice. Well, we hope you guys play and are able to continue the season. We'll all be keeping an eye on it, and always going to be a fan, man, no matter where you're at. And I want to see you guys win a cup in New York. So,
right,
thanks.
guys. Appreciate your friendship. Great seeing you guys, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Coach. Thanks.
Yep. So that was New York Rangers head coach David Quinn. Really appreciate having him on. Me and you have both known him for a long time since we met him back in, I believe it would have been 2008, I think, for you.
09 for me. Yeah.
09. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was really great to have him on. Talk a little bit of hockey. Talk a little bit of basketball too. It was great. How'd you feel about being able to talk to him again in the interview?
It was great to see Quinny again and catch up with him. And yeah, we met in 2009. I was the radio and TV guy in Cleveland, working in the American Hockey League. He was the head coach. David Oliver, who we mentioned in the interview there, is a great Michigan man. We're going to try to get Ollie on for one of these. Was the general manager. Dan LaPerriere was our assistant there with Quinny, and great times. And I love, one of the things I've always loved about Coach is just his positive way, the way, like we talked about in the interview, the way you can communicate with people, the way you learn to have that accountability.
Yeah.
And it's not just like he touched on. It's not just in the game of hockey; it's in the game of life.
Exactly.
And a lot of great lessons I learned from Coach and all of our guys. And man, we had a lot of good times, and it was a lot of fun. And I mean, the last time he saw you, you were what were you? Probably playing squirt hockey.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think the first time I met him, I would have been 8, and then probably the last time I saw him would have been when I was 9. I think, so.
Yeah. So
But, yeah.
that was fun. Our first installment of the No Holding Back Hockey Edition right here on No Holding Back. We got a lot of great guests lined up throughout the week, and Luke and I are still doing our No Holding Back podcast with not just hockey folks, but people from all over the sports world and some human interest stories as well. So thanks for listening. Our third week is underway, and we're looking forward to continuing on here. So for Luke, this is Ben. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next time, we'll see you.